Morning, Tom. Thanks for joining us today. Just remind us all what you do at Clifton.
Certainly. So I am a business development consultant, is my official title. To translate that into plain English for everyone at home, I tend to deal with the inquiries that come in through our website, through various online platforms, and of course our valued introducer network. So I'm generally the first point of contact for any clients getting in touch, looking to discuss the alternative funding method, which we know as pension-led funding.
And you know a bit about pension-led funding. How long have you been fielding inquiries on PLF?
Just a little while. I joined Clifton in 2013, initially on a 3-month contract for a single project. 7 and a bit years later, I'm still here doing more or less the same things with a couple of other jobs tacked on alongside it.
Excellent. So I think it's fair to say you know a lot about PLF, but most importantly for this conversation, I think what we wanted to explore a little bit was what makes a good inquiry, what makes a good lead.
Sure. So beyond the obvious, which is the presence of a pension fund and a business owner that needs some funding, really we are able to take a lot of cases on their merits. So it's not to say that pension-led funding needs, certain years of company accounts. We generally recommend at least £80,000 in pensions before this become a viable option, and at least a limited company there to be the counterparty for the transaction from the pension. Everything else is very much taken on its merits, and we'll always see if we can get a deal over the line if there's one there.
Is there a sort of a minimum amount of borrowing that makes sense, sort of commercial sense for the business owner?
Sure. So we generally recommend at least £40,000 before this becomes workable for the pension and the business owner.
Okay. And when a lead comes to you, how much sort of packaging are you requiring from an introducer?
So one of the key features of working with our introducer network is we'd really just like to make it very simple for them. We're not expecting them to be experts in pension-led funding. It's taken me 7+ years to get to where I am. So really all we're expecting at least is some basic contact details and a very brief synopsis of the conversation so far. It's my job to really work out the rest of it, see if there's a deal there, and move the case on from our conversation.
And if an introducer, if a broker or an IFA is thinking, oh, that's the wrong type of business for PLF, or that's the wrong sector or whatever, are there any prejudices against certain businesses or startups or whatever, or can we look at a lot of different businesses?
Well, I think during my time here, I've spoken to thousands of business owners from across the country, everywhere from someone who's been running a company that's existed since the 1800s, all the way through to companies that haven't even been formed as a limited company yet. And part of the pension-led funding process will actually sort of assist them with the establishment of their limited company, help them work through the business plan in the case of the startups, and actually become that injection of capital the business needs to get that startup business plan in action.
So as a sort of a hack to this for introducers, is there anything that you would recommend that they ask their customers when they're doing that initial fact find? What sort of gets that thought process going?
Well, there's one simple question, Julian, and I say this to every new introducer that I get in touch with or that gets in touch with us. It sounds really obvious, but just asking the question, do you have a pension fund, really does open up a lot of opportunities for this. You're going to get a lot of people that are going to say no. A lot of people just haven't paid money into pensions and they're just not going to be able to do what we can. But you're going to get a lot of people that answer, well, yeah, I have got a pension fund. I worked for a big corporate for 20 years. I've paid some money into the pot. I'm now going to do my own thing. And the follow-up question that they often ask is, are you telling me there's something I can do with that? And at that point, it's a really nice introduction over to us. Just drop me an email or give me a quick call with the basic details. I'll get in touch with the client and see where it might stack up.
And I think it's fair to say that a lot of people don't know, both from the customer side and the introducer side, that actually for many businesses where there are more than one director, or there's a director's spouse or whatever, those other pensions can be brought into the equation as well. So it's worthwhile sort of just bearing that in the back of their mind.
Absolutely. And I mean, in terms of a fact find, I doubt there's any brokers or introducers that are watching this at home that on their initial fact find don't ask about property. Generally speaking, that's going to be one of the first assets that people list. Quite often their second largest asset will be their pension fund, and having the ability to utilize that in their business can be quite powerful for a lot of business owners.
That's interesting. Now, one of the programs that Clifton run, I think that's quite unusual in lead generation, is the Prime Opportunity Program. How does that actually work?
Sure. So like any other funder, for any introduced leads to us, we pay an introducer fee at the end of the process once the deal has been drawn down. We also have a payment which is payable at the start of the process, which, as you rightly said, is our Prime Opportunity payment. Now, the way that that works is that if you send us a lead and it has the following criteria ticked, which is a limited company trading for more than 3 years, a pension fund or pension funds worth collectively more than £100,000, and a turnover of at least £300,000 within the company. Once that lead has been qualified and we've sort of assessed that there's definitely something we can do there, we'd actually pay the introducer £250 just for introducing that case, and there's no clawbacks on that. So even if the client, for whatever reason, doesn't go ahead with the funding, it means they've still earned off that introduction.
And how do some of our introducers who like the Prime Opportunity Program, how do they use that?
So some will use it as their minimum requirements, which means they earn off every single introduction, or in theory they do. Of course, they are going to get some people that'll say, well, I don't quite meet the turnover, but I've got this in pensions and I've been trading for a few years. And whilst that wouldn't earn the Prime payment itself, it would still be eligible for our introducer payment at the end of the process should it go to business. We have some introducers who will use marketing agencies to get their emails to business owners around their funding options. And quite a few of them will have a regular feature offering what we do, saying that if this looks like your business with the Prime criteria, the 300k turnover, the limited company trading for 3 years, and the pension funds of 100,000 plus, then once they get the inquiries in, they email them over to me, and they have a fairly steady stream of inquiries coming over, which in turn pays for the marketing for the rest of their products. So really quite powerful when used correctly.
Nice. All right, Tom, thank you very much for taking up a lot of your time and appreciate that. I know you're busy. I'm sure we'll be revisiting this soon. Okay.
Absolutely. Thanks again.
Cheerio then.
Bye. Bye.